When most businesses launch meta ads, the first thing they question is the creative. They assume the video is not engaging enough. Maybe the headline is weak. Sometimes they believe the algorithm simply did not deliver the campaign properly. But in reality, the majority of meta ad campaigns fail for a much simpler reason. They are speaking to the wrong audience. You could have a beautifully produced video. You could have a compelling offer. You might even have a landing page that converts well when the right people arrive. Yet, if your targeting is misaligned, your message travels to people who were never likely to buy in the first place. And when that happens, the campaign slowly drains your budget while producing confusing signals. Clicks may appear, engagement may look acceptable, but conversions remain inconsistent. This is where many advertisers start making dangerous decisions. They begin adjusting creatives, rewriting copy, or increasing budgets, believing the problem lies somewhere else. But the real issue often sits quietly inside the audience settings. Interest targeting inside Meta Ads Manager looks simple. You type a few keywords, select a few interests, and launch the campaign. However, the way Meta actually interprets those interests is far more complex than most advertisers realize. Understanding that difference is what separates random ad testing from structured advertising strategy. Because interest targeting is not about guessing what people like, it is about identifying the patterns that reveal who is most likely to act. And once you understand that shift, meta targeting starts to look very different. When advertisers open the interest targeting section inside Meta Ads Manager, they often approach it the same way they might brainstorm keywords. They begin listing everything that feels related to their industry. A fitness coach might add interests related to gyms, workouts, supplements, and nutrition. A marketing consultant might include entrepreneurship, social media, digital marketing, and online business. From a human perspective, that approach feels logical. After all, people interested in those topics might reasonably care about the service being offered. But the meta advertising system does not operate on human assumptions. It operates on behavioral clustering. When dozens of interests are stacked inside one ad set, the algorithm receives mixed signals about who the campaign is actually trying to reach. Some users in that audience may enjoy watching fitness content but have no intention of buying coaching programs. Others may follow entrepreneurship pages purely for inspiration rather than actively investing in business tools. As these different groups mix together, the campaign begins optimizing for engagement patterns that do not necessarily correlate with purchasing behavior. The result is subtle but significant. The ad may appear active, it may generate activity, but the underlying audience quality becomes diluted. This is why campaigns sometimes look healthy in early metrics, yet struggle to produce meaningful outcomes. Interest targeting is not simply about identifying topics, it is about isolating the environments where genuine buying intent already exists. And once that distinction becomes clear, the way you structure interest targeting begins to change. When advertisers select an interest inside Meta Ads Manager, it is easy to imagine that the platform is simply grouping people based on labels. For example, selecting an interest like digital marketing might appear to mean that Meta will simply show your ads to people who like digital marketing. But the system is far more complex than that. Meta does not define interests purely by words. Instead, it builds them from behavioral patterns observed across millions of users interacting with the platform every day. People follow pages, they watch videos, they click ads, they engage with posts, and sometimes they purchase products after interacting with those ads. Each of these actions sends a signal. Over time, Meta's system begins clustering users together based on similarities in those signals. If someone consistently interacts with e-commerce tutorials, follows Shopify-related pages, and engages with online business content, the platform gradually associates that behavior with certain interest categories. This means that selecting an interest does not simply target a topic. It targets a pattern of behavior connected to that topic. And this is where many advertisers misunderstand the system. Because while interests can represent curiosity, they can also represent intent. Two users might both interact with marketing content. One may simply enjoy watching motivational business videos. The other may actively purchase software tools and invest in growing a business. Understanding the difference between those two audiences is what makes interest targeting effective. And this is where the concept of intent layers becomes extremely important. To understand how interest targeting should be structured, it helps to think about audiences in layers of intent. Not all interests represent the same mindset. Some represent curiosity, others represent active problem solving. And a smaller group represents people who are already spending money on solutions. The first layer is what we can call broad awareness interests. These are large general topics that describe an industry or lifestyle category. Examples might include entrepreneurship, fitness, marketing, or real estate. People interacting with these interests may enjoy consuming content related to those topics, but many of them are simply exploring ideas rather than looking to purchase something. The second layer is problem-aware interests. These interests are connected to people who recognize a challenge and are actively searching for information or guidance. Someone researching lead generation strategies or online store optimization may already be trying to improve their business results. These audiences often engage deeply with educational content. The third layer is the most valuable for many advertisers. These are buyer intent interests. They usually include tools, platforms, or brands used by people who are already investing in solutions. Examples might include platforms like Shopify, ClickFunnels, HubSpot, or Kajabi. Users interacting with these ecosystems often represent entrepreneurs, marketers, and business owners who have already demonstrated willingness to spend money. And when campaigns focus on these higher intent environments, the probability of meaningful conversions often increases significantly. But identifying these interests is only part of the process. The real strategy comes from how you structure them inside your campaign. And this is where many advertisers unknowingly sabotage their own results. Once advertisers understand the difference between curiosity interests and buyer intent interests, the next instinct is usually to combine them all together inside a single ad set. The thinking often goes something like this. If I include all of these interests at once, the algorithm will have more people to choose from, which should increase the chances of finding the right customers. But in practice, that approach usually creates the opposite effect. When many interests are stacked inside one audience group, the campaign loses clarity about what it should actually optimize for. Some users inside that audience might simply enjoy browsing content about the topic. Others may represent highly motivated buyers who are actively investing in tools or services. The algorithm now has to balance signals from both groups. And when that happens, it often optimizes toward the easiest engagement signals rather than the most valuable conversion signals. This is why campaigns sometimes generate activity but still struggle to produce meaningful results. A more effective approach is to separate these signals. Instead of stacking multiple interests together, experienced advertisers often isolate them into separate ad sets. Each audience becomes its own testing environment. This creates a clearer understanding of which behavioral clusters actually respond to your offer. Once you see this structure inside Ads Manager, the strategy becomes much easier to understand. So let's go inside the platform and look at how this setup actually works in practice. At this point, the concept becomes much easier to understand when you see it directly inside Meta Ads Manager. Instead of explaining it only in theory, let's open the platform and walk through how interest targeting should actually be structured inside a real campaign. Watch how the audience settings change when interests are isolated instead of stacked together. And pay attention to how each ad set becomes its own testing environment. This is where the strategy begins to move from concept into practical execution. Struggling to get results for meta ads. The problem might be wrong interest targeting. Let me show you step by step how to choose the right interest. First, log into your Meta Ad Manager and click the Create option. Then choose your campaign objective. For now, I choose leads and then continue. Now this video is only for how we can make meta interest in right approach. So that's why I skip all the steps here. If you want to learn how to run an ad, you can check out our channel. Now you go to your ad set level, where you can find suggest an in-audience segment. You find options like age, gender, and location. So at first you choose your basic targeting options like age, gender, and location. After that, go to detailed targeting option. Here you can add a basic target for your business. Like if I am a digital marketing agency, I write digital marketing. Here you can find more suggestions by Facebook. Here you can see social media marketing is a part of the digital marketing agency. You can select this. You can see online advertising, advertise in social media. So you also select those options. Now the people your target must have a business. So you can add small business, you can add business owner. So like this, you can target the people who needs your service. You also add behavior as well as. You can add engaged shopper. It is a behavior. Like you can duplicate your ad set and put different interest on your ad set for testing which interest can gives you more audience and right audience. If you cannot define your audience, then you can use the Meta AI optimization for making interest and audience for you. But yes, if you are able to understand and to do how to run a business, how to run an ad on Meta Ads, then you can make a manual ad through our Meta Ad tutorials. So it's over now, and I think it helps you for making interest. Now that you've seen how interest targeting is structured inside Ads Manager, the next step is understanding how Meta actually learns from those audiences. Now that you've seen how interest targeting is structured inside Ads Manager, the next step is understanding how Meta actually learns from those audiences. Every campaign you launch begins in what advertisers call the learning phase. During this period, the algorithm is observing how different people interact with your ad. Some viewers scroll past quickly, others pause, watch, or click. A smaller group may take the final step and convert. Each of those behaviors sends signals back into the system. Meta analyzes those signals and gradually identifies patterns among the people who respond most positively. Over time, the algorithm begins prioritizing users who share similar characteristics and behaviors. This is why audience structure matters so much. If the audience is too mixed, the signals become diluted. The system struggles to understand what kind of person it should prioritize. But when interests are separated into clear audience clusters, the algorithm can learn more efficiently. Each ad set becomes its own data experiment. Instead of guessing which audience might work best, the campaign begins revealing which behavioral groups respond most strongly to your offer. That clarity is what transforms advertising from trial and error into measurable strategy. Once your audiences are structured correctly, the next objective is testing. But testing in Meta Ads does not mean launching dozens of random variations and hoping something works. Effective testing follows a controlled structure. Instead of stacking multiple interests together, each ad set isolates a single audience cluster. One ad set may target a specific software platform. Another may focus on a competitor brand. A third might represent a broader category within the same industry. By keeping these audiences separate, the performance data becomes far easier to interpret. You can see which audience produces stronger engagement, which audience generates more clicks, and most importantly, which audience produces meaningful conversions. This structure eliminates one of the biggest problems many advertisers face. When multiple interests exist inside one ad set, it becomes impossible to know what actually caused the result. But when each interest operates independently, the campaign begins telling a much clearer story. Testing is no longer about guessing what might work. It becomes a process of observing which behavioral environments respond best to your message, and those insights eventually guide the next phase of campaign growth. As your campaign begins gathering data, the next step is interpreting the signals that indicate whether an audience is responding well. Many advertisers focus only on surface-level numbers like impressions or reach, but those metrics rarely tell the full story. Instead, attention should shift toward engagement and interaction signals. When an audience is aligned with your message, certain patterns often begin to appear. Click-through rates become stronger because the message resonates with the viewer's interests or challenges. Cost per click stabilizes because the platform can easily find people willing to engage, and watch time or engagement increases because the content feels relevant to that audience. These signals do not guarantee conversions on their own, but they reveal whether the campaign is communicating with the right type of viewer. If engagement remains weak across multiple creatives, the problem often traces back to audience alignment rather than the creative itself. Strong targeting creates the environment where strong creative can perform, and once a clear audience begins showing positive signals, the campaign is ready to move into its next stage. Scaling. One interesting shift in modern meta advertising is the role of broad targeting. Many advertisers assume interest targeting should always remain active throughout the entire campaign lifecycle. But experienced advertisers often treat interest targeting as a discovery tool rather than a permanent structure. During the early phase of a campaign, interest audiences help identify which behavioral environments respond best to your message. Once the campaign gathers enough conversion data, the platform becomes better at identifying similar users automatically. At that stage, many advertisers begin testing broader audiences with fewer restrictions. The creative and conversion signals guide the algorithm toward people who resemble the users that previously responded well. This is where Meta's machine learning capabilities become especially powerful. Interest targeting helps start the signal. Broad targeting helps scale the signal. When both approaches are used strategically, campaigns often move from slow experimentation into consistent growth. For small businesses and creators, this structured approach to targeting can make a significant difference. Many small advertisers operate with limited budgets. Every dollar spent on advertising needs to produce meaningful learning or results. When interest targeting is approached randomly, campaigns often burn through budget without generating clear insights. But when audiences are structured intentionally, even small campaigns begin producing valuable information. A business owner running ads for local services might test audiences connected to specific tools used in their industry. An online course creator might test audiences connected to platforms their ideal customers already use. Instead of attempting to reach everyone, the campaign focuses on the environments where potential buyers are more likely to exist. This approach does not require massive budgets or complex technology. It simply requires strategic audience structure. And once the right audience signals begin to appear, campaigns become easier to optimize and scale. At this point, the process becomes surprisingly simple. First, identify the problem your audience is trying to solve. Not the industry label, but the challenge they are actively working to overcome. Next, look at the tools, platforms, or communities connected to people already solving that problem. Those environments often reveal the interest categories where real buyers spend their attention. Then structure your campaign so each interest becomes its own testing environment. Allow the campaign to gather data long enough for meaningful signals to appear. Observe which audiences respond most positively to the message. And once those signals emerge, begin expanding the campaign with broader targeting to allow the algorithm to find similar users automatically. This entire system is less about complex tactics and more about disciplined structure. When the structure is correct, the data becomes easier to interpret. And when the data becomes clear, better decisions naturally follow. When audience structure is ignored, the consequences rarely appear immediately. At first, the campaign may look active. Ads receive impressions. Some clicks arrive. Engagement might even appear encouraging. But over time, the deeper problems begin to surface. Conversion rates remain inconsistent. Costs fluctuate unpredictably. Scaling becomes difficult because the campaign never develops a clear understanding of who the ideal customer actually is. Advertisers often react by adjusting creatives repeatedly or increasing budgets, believing the issue lies somewhere else. But without strong audience signals, the algorithm cannot learn effectively. The campaign keeps circulating through broad groups of users without identifying the behavioral patterns connected to real buyers. This creates a cycle of uncertainty. Budget increases fail to produce proportional results. New creatives generate temporary spikes but no lasting improvement. Eventually, the campaign begins to feel unpredictable and unreliable. In many cases, the root cause traces back to something surprisingly simple. The audience structure never allowed the platform to learn clearly in the first place. And when learning never stabilizes, scaling rarely succeeds. At the beginning of this video, we started with a simple observation. Many advertisers believe their meta ads fail because of poor creatives or weak offers. But as you've seen throughout this discussion, the underlying issue often appears much earlier in the process. It begins with the audience. Advertising platforms today operate on signals. Every click, view, and conversion helps the system understand who your message resonates with most strongly. When the audience structure is random, those signals become scattered. The platform receives mixed information about who it should prioritize. But when targeting is structured intentionally, something important happens. Patterns become visible. You begin to see which behavioral environments contain people genuinely interested in what you offer. Those patterns create clarity. Clarity allows the algorithm to learn more effectively. And when the algorithm learns effectively, campaigns become easier to optimize, predict, and scale. This is why experienced advertisers rarely think of targeting as a simple selection of interests. They think of it as building a learning environment for the platform. Each audience becomes a signal source. Each test becomes a discovery process. And over time, the campaign evolves from experimentation into a system that consistently identifies the right people. If this perspective changes the way you think about meta ads, then the next step is simple. Open your campaigns. Look at how your audiences are structured. Ask whether the signals you are sending the algorithm are clear or mixed. Because successful advertising is not about reaching the most people. It is about reaching the right people. And once that alignment exists, everything else in your campaign begins working more effectively. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more practical strategies on marketing, branding, and digital growth. I'll see you in the next video.